Değerli meslektaşlarım, bu kongrenin son toplantısını birlikte arkadaşım, meslektaşım Süleyman BOZKURT ile birlikte yürüteceğiz. Çok uzatmadan hemen iki konuşmacımız var. Bize naklen bağlanacaklar. Bağlanmış durumdalar mı? Evet. Birinci konuşmacımız Manoel Galvao NETO. Güncel endoskopik kilo verdirici girişimler. Dr. Galvao.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be among you and in Turkey, a country that I learned to love and respect. And that's the topic of my presentation. It will be about what we have today in terms of endoscopic procedures for weight loss and what should be the state of the art. So these are the people I work with in Brazil. Also just got a position in India with the Mohit Bandari and team. And to start, as you might be discussing previously, that we are living the epidemic of our century. That is the obesity. And two words created by the World Health Organization help us understand that. So diabetes and obesity, and really comes when they come together. Our aim on endoscopic procedures for obesity, is not to replace surgery, but occupy a space that's clearly empty. So you can see here a graph with procedures and medicines where the rate of those who reach at least 10% of total weight loss. And this is very important because if you reach 10% of total weight loss in an obese or so overweight subject, you get rid of 80% of the comorbidities associated with the disease. And you can see here that now we have some of our procedures reaching with more than 70% of people that are submitted to the procedure reaching at least 10% of weight loss. So we are in between the clinical and surgical treatment. We have interface also with both. What we have to offer in 2022 in terms of endobariatric therapy. So you can see here interventions on the stomach, like bariatric surgery. We have interventions over the stomach and interventions over the bowel. So we have a space occupying device like balloons. We can alter the anatomy of the stomach by means of suture or by means of plication. And even part of what the patients ingest, we can take it out. Also, you can see that below each one of these procedures, we have a red mark that is FDA. They are all FDA approved, so they are clear to be used in clinical practice. Also, we have interventions on the bowel, and they are all experimental, but one right now. And we can detour the path of the food from the stomach into the duodenum. We can create magnetic anastomosis. We can even alter the mucosa of the proximal bowel with intention to treat metabolic conditions. So let's start with the older ones, 20 years in the markets, intragastric balloons. We have the liquid filled ones, air filled, we have nitrogen filled, we have swallow balloons. So I have plenty of those that you see here on the screen. And this pretty much tested. You can see publications like our intragastric balloon consensus, with more than 40,000 balloons implanted, and it tells us the best practices on the field. So from the 39 endoscopies with at least 70 years of experience, a threshold of 300 procedures, we put this group together. What we get was 41,186 cases with a mean percent of total weight loss better than the literature of 18.40%, with adverse events, severe adverse events of 2.53%. The most common complication, hyperinflation, is spontaneous deflation. You can see that is less than 1%. And the early removal rate of 2.2%. So it means what we can have as a state of the art with the balloons with people that really know how to do it. And mortality of 3 patients out of 40,000. And that's very impressive. Also, balloons have evolved in terms of education, and you can see here a very recent one that was this paper done in Mayo Clinic, where they take biopsy, intragastric biopsies by endosonography before and after. So with that, we got an education of the use of intragastric balloons to treat NEFLG and NASH, meaning the fatty liver. And you can see here that this is very interesting. On the top, you can see that the steatosis, ballooning of the cells, and the inflammation goes down dramatically on that. So that is the new indication for balloon that's a fatty liver. And even more important in US, from 2023, the balloons will be reimbursed. So we're gonna be another boom on the market, as well as the approval of new FDA approval. So just 5 days ago, the adjustable intragastric balloon was approved, and a swallowable balloon is about to be approved as well. So it's a market that's still going. 20 years in Brazil, 20 years on the market, 10 to 14% of total weight loss is expected. This is safe. You have balloon for 6 months and 1 year. It have to be is outdated. Actually, is around 1 million balloons have been implanted in those 20 years. So that's what you have. The target is to BMI 27 and over. The endoscopic gastroplasty is new, recently, relatively new. Is the possibility, as you will see on this video that I hope that is projecting well, the possibility that we alter the anatomy of the stomach on its body by means of suture, anterior wall, greater curvature, posterior wall in different suture patterns. There is at least 10 different suture patterns, but clinically they are the same. After that, we drop the needle, we put it together, we cinch it, and you can see that how we can alter and the anatomy on that way. So just to have a glimpse of how it's done clinically. So I have this grasper as a helix, as a corkscrew, with wet tissue, we put inside, and we exchange needle one side to the other. The intention is to have outside serosa to serosa apposition and accordion fashion that it seems to be durable. So I'll pass to you also how it is in terms of before and just after. Is a three-dimensional tomography gap capture intraoperatively, so you can have an idea how we reduce the gastric body. And this is an endoscopy just after. So you can see at 3 o'clock, the smaller curvature, at 9 o'clock, the sutured greater curvature, at 12 o'clock, anterior wall, and at 6 o'clock, the posterior wall. And you can see how tuburized it is just after the procedure. Also, if you're familiar with bariatric surgery, this X-ray looks like a sleeve gastrectomy, but it's not. If you can see, you have the gastric bubble because intentionally we don't do the fundus, and it's a very different procedure from the sleeve gastrectomy. It is a low pressure, high compliance system, and different from the sleeve gastrectomy that is a high pressure, low compliance system. How it works? So I have some interesting data to show you that we induce or slow the gastric empty. You can see in the scintigraphy on the left, the colorful part is the fundus. So after 240 minutes, it's still there. If you go to the area under the curve graph, you can see before and 3 months after how we impact, how we delay the gastric emptying, and it translates in weight loss. So about how experience we have on that, well, there is at least 400 quotes or publications and cases in literature up to now. Very briefly, in terms of timeline, we start in 2012. Endosuture started way before, but the endoscopic gastroplasty 2012. And then you can see up to 2021 how fast we go from the initial series, international, multicentric series, big series of 1,000 cases and more, at least 11 meta-analyses, and very recently the Brazilian consensus with 1,800 cases plus, and the MERIT trial that the US randomized control trial with intention to get approval from FDA. So very briefly, this iconic paper, so this one was an international multicentric trial between our centers in Spain and US Cornell and Mayo Clinic, 248 patients follow-up for at least 24 months, meaning 2 years. And you can see here different ways to suture. If you go to the P on the right side, there's no difference among the centers, but 84%, if you remember well, of those patients achieved 10% of total weight loss. That is really impressive for us. This is our Brazilian experience, one of our papers, published in Surgical Endoscopy, with 233 patients on the beginning and 123 patients available for follow-up at 12 months that achieve a mean of 19.7% of total weight loss, with one severe adverse event was a bleeding treated with endoclips and no mortality. And you can see here how the weight loss is predictable and reproducible with that. We got to our Brazilian consensus that we have the honor to lead with 1,828 patients that achieve a mean of 18.2% in a mean of 1 year. These are the colleagues that we got the paper together with. 47 endoscopies with 15 years of experience. On average, each one has 87 at least procedures, and all treated in the same fashion in a suture that was in a U shape, as you can see here, just in front of your screen. That's anterior wall, greater curvature posterior, up on the posterior wall, and returning to the anterior wall throughout the greater curvature. Important is collectively, all the papers pointing to 2.0 to 2.5% of severe adverse event, but this group that has a little bit more experienced group has less than 1%, as you can see, 0.8%. And complications, they were treated or conservatively by endoscopy or by laparoscopy in 3 cases, like abscesses and a single gallbladder breach. To note that this series published the very first mortality with the procedure, that was a patient that had a massive pulmonary embolism 2 weeks after the procedure, and this was a high-risk patient. Data on how, if we have this paper from Cornell, 5 years, and the series of green survivor. As you can see here, their group of patient reached 14.5% at 5 years. It has a 89% follow-up, and 70% of those patients reached at least 10% of weight loss. This is the weight loss up to 5 years. You can see here very well up to 36 months, start gaining up to 48, and it drops to 60. To be noted that this is possibly a beta error with very good patients to be followed at 6 months. We don't expect this to be reproducible at 60 months. We start more on the trend of 48 months. And as I say to you guys, meta-analysis, at least 11, this was a recent one from São Paulo University with 11 papers, including ours. You can see here that 16% total weight loss on 18 months, so it's very in 2.3% of severe adverse events on that. And we get to this, that's the important FDA trial that we have the honor to be the proctor together with our colleagues from Mayo Clinic, Buffalo University and University of Texas. But look at this, how important is this paper? So Mayo Clinic, University of Texas, Weill Cornell, Harvard, University of Chicago, Johns Hopkins, and 4 more centers, so, private centers, so it's a very important paper, was a randomized control trial against diets, 200 patients, with 40 patients with hypertension, more 40 patients with diabetes. They were randomized to have the procedure, 80 of them, and 120 to have a follow-up diet that will be, they were crossed after 1 year to have the procedure on that. So we just have the initial results presented, and we achieved all the endpoints in safety and efficacy. So we expect the FDA to approve not just the device because it's approved, but the procedure in the near future. So now as we are getting to 10 years of experience, we should expect 15 to 20% total weight loss. It is safe with 2 to 2.5% of severe adverse events, 1 to 3 year robust results, targets 30 to 40 BMI. We have also another way to suture, basically, is to induce or create big folds, that's called folds. And this is a newer than the endoscopic osteoplasty, but it's there representing DDW, the first series from Spain, achieving 70% of total weight loss up to 9 months with no severe adverse event. And 91% of the patients achieving at least 10% of total weight loss. And also this experience was later published with more cases and keep the same 17.8% of total weight loss at 1 year with our friend Gaetan Lopez Nava and Roman Turo from Spain. You can see here, very recently that they sent to us 2-year X-ray, very impressive results on that. So we have to check on that. We're about to start this year the FDA trial, but we are part of that. So it's new, 2 years, 15 to 20% total weight loss. It is safe, experimental, but in some countries in Europe, like Spain and Italy, it can be done clinically. The same group of BMI is the target. There is another one of suturing that is called Endomina. They have CE mark, they can be used clinically, and they just did a randomized trial that they proved that they are superior than the control. You can see here how the suture is done, how they can reduce the gastric body. And at the end of 1 year, with crossing both groups, they achieved less weight loss, but significant weight loss, 11.5% of total weight loss. And we have this one that's very interesting, that's Endoscopy, it's produced in Israel. They have done the initial trial in Spain with Gaetan Lopez Nava group. And you can see here, 16% of total weight loss up to 1 year is not that bad. So very on the beginning, we need more information about it. And then we get to metabolic endoscopy. That's our interventions on the bowel. They now start with the thermal ablation of the mucosa. And the idea is that you identify the papilla, so you put your scope up to the triangle, so you guide wire that, then you slide over a guide wire, a very special balloon that you can see on the screen, and it touches in 3 points of the mucosa, aspirate and inject, so you have 260 lifting of the mucosa. So you do 2 lifts and 1 ablation at 87.5% degree Celsius, so very hot water for 10 seconds, and then you go to achieve 10 centimeters. Very initial good results, can see very important publications in GIE, in diabetes care, in gut, and the result is a drop of more than 1 point on A1C, and the hepatic enzymes on the fatty liver also drop dramatically on that, as you can see here on this dynamic MRI for liver on that. The randomized trial also showed that the responders have a significantly better response in terms of drop on A1C when compared with controls, as you can see. And also, again, the liver, fatty liver, nephrology, very good profile on that. And there's this small trial that patients on insulin were treated with DMR. And then start with GLP-1 analogs. So with that, you can see here that half of those patients, more than half of the patients, almost 60%, were out of insulin by the end of 1 year. And it was so important, and also, sorry, to let you know that not just drop in A1C, but improve a lot the metabolic performance on that. And this was enough, the FDA, to grant them a breakthrough approval, so take patients out of insulin. They are currently an FDA trial. So again, it's 7 years of experience. Expect a drop of 1.2 and 1.4 is not for weight loss. And experimental, but just got a breakthrough approval from the FDA. The other one we have is old one. That we start more than 10 years ago, is a sleeve that you put on the duodenum in a post-caloric position, as you can see here. This sleeve is anchored on the duodenum, and the food passes inside, and the biliopancreatic juice alongside, and it's like a biliopancreatic limb of a gastric bypass. Explanting is after 1 year, you have a customized cap, customized grasper that you put it inside and remove safely. So we did the first in human, you can see here in 2007, and this was going to clinical practice, how it works. If you see this graph, 4 quadrants, inferior left quadrant, is patients that effectively lose weight and drop the A1C. The weight loss expected is more than 15% if you go up to 1 year. And we have very good results, including this ASGE meta-analysis that got all the single branches, the single arm papers, and you can see the losango of meta-analysis, the red one that goes to the left side of the curve, that is around 1.5% drop of glycated hemoglobin. And the 3 randomized trial also confirmed this drop of H1C. But going to US to do the FDA trial, there was unexpectedly much more complication that we saw in Latin America, in Europe, with almost 3.5% of tragic abscess. So the FDA terminated the study, and even with the study terminated, we see here red dots, the sham group, and blue dots, the treated group, that again, it mimics the first graph that I showed to you. The patients effectively lose weight and drop H1C. So now the company just get another approval, not to 1 year, but to 9 months. Then we have to check how it's gonna go. And I'll finish of creating an a magnetic anastomosis just by doing endoscopy. So you do a colonoscopy, intubate the ileum for 70 centimeters. Then you do an upper endoscopy, intubate and pass the triangle 40 centimeters. You align your scopes, you deploy very special magnets through the channels. It will form octagons, and then with joysticks, you align them, you drop them, the magnetic force will attract them, and you cut the sutures, let it there, 6 days, 7 days, it will pass through the bowel, creating a lateral anastomosis like many of the metabolic surgeries you guys have discussed during the Congress. So there's one paper from Edwin Machika, our friend in Czech Republic, from Strava. And you can see here the performance of glycemic performance up to 1 year in pre-diabetics and diabetic subjects, and the weight loss of 14.6% up to 1 year. And these patients were followed up to 3 years, and the end result was 18% total weight loss with 1.8% drop on A1C. Very interesting. But then we went to Argentina to start a randomized trial there. And what we realized that it was feasible and it's safe, but it takes 4-6 hours, and 4 of the most experienced endoscopists in the world to do that. So we get back to the lab, and now we get another solution that is just published by our friend Rudolf Baron from Argentina, that is laparoendoscopic. So the way it is be done, you do a laparoscopy, you identify 250 centimeters from ileocecal valve, you do a small opening on the bowel, open a magnet there. And then you just put this magnet on the upper part where we are in the duodenum, and we are opening a magnet in the duodenum. So going to be a duodenojejunal anastomosis, just placing there once against the other. You can see and check the magnets align. And look how beautiful those anastomoses are. So they have done 10 cases. The results are pretty good. So we have to see how much going to be there. Also, our friend Roman Turo just did 2 cases 3 days ago here in Barcelona that we witnessed that. And there are patients with sleeve that regain weight. They will be submitted to this like a SASI or sighting procedure. So it's very new. 3 years up to 18% total weight loss, a 1.5% drop on A1C. We have to see how it goes. Near future is to combine medicine. So interventions on the stomach, interventions on the bowel, and medicines. And the future is just arriving. Just check our publication, basic surgery for balloons after the balloons are removed to keep the weight loss. And those ones, we are very effective on that using liraglutides. Also, a publication from us, from gastrointestinal endoscopy, our group, that we had used liraglutide after the endoscopic gastroplasty is not randomized, it's case measured, 26 patients each group. But look at this. You do the procedure, and when you apply or start doing a group with liraglutide, the results are almost surgical with more than 24% of total weight loss. We get another group with a more potent, a more powerful, GLP-1 analog, semaglutide. It just was presented in a very good way in DDW oral presentation. And this is the graph I have for you. 25% when the groups were randomized after 6 months to have semaglutide. When you compare with just 18% in the group, that's a good one, but with the drug got much better. So the future is coming. And even concepts very disruptive, like this one, the sleeve balloon, that's a balloon have a conduit and a sleeve. so the food can pass through that, mimics a gastric bypass. Very good basic science from Gertrude Mignon in Rome. We do metabolomics. It goes directly in like a metabolic profile, like a gastric bypass in go to Kakazaki rats, meaning diabetic rats, and also good performance of getting better in terms of obesity or fatty liver in the muscle, and in the liver and also in the muscle. So at the end, what we can tell you that what we have now are repeatable, is combinable, it can be sequential and we can personalize procedures. So this is what we have to present to you. I wanted to thank you very much for the attention and to say that it's an honor. It's an honor to be among you. Thank you.
Doktor NETO'ya teşekkür ediyoruz. Gerçekten endobariatrik konuda yapılabilecek çok farklı ve yeni teknikleri bize anlattı.